access level has recently increased. Excellent. Incoming message.
Welcome, agents, to episode 50 of Behind the Scanner. Your hosts for tonight are Andrew Krug from Arlington, Virginia, and Daphne from Washington, D.C. Our special guests tonight are Wother R from Salt Lake City, Utah, and Spam from Baltimore, Maryland. Joining us for the Weekly Truth is Jose Antonio Rey from Lima, Peru. And for a look inside the scanner to discuss game updates is Fev Games. Welcome to the show. The Q&A tool is enabled for tonight's broadcast. Submit your questions throughout the show and we'll ask as many as time allows. If you know someone who would make a great guest, submit their information to us at bit.ly/BTS_guest. Finally, you can watch past episodes and subscribe to our channel at youtube.com/behindthescanner. And now, your hosts of Behind the Scanner.
That's your cue.
Which cue? Mine are... Oh, that, is this the drinking game portion again? Hello. Well, welcome, agents. It's episode 50 of Behind the Scanner, and yes, we still experience technical difficulties. However, we are ready to get the show started. So, let's welcome our first guest, Wother R from Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome.
Does that mean I can unmute my microphone now?
You can do that now, yeah. Although you missed an opportunity to make your friends drink that are watching. You should have just kept it muted, man. And
no, the rules are on the thread. We're fine.
I'm not sure how you actually became a guest because, as the intro states from Kelly Colton, if you know somebody that would make a great guest, you're supposed to submit somebody's name, and I don't know how you got through the filters, but we appreciate you coming on anyway, so thanks. That's cool.
It's because
Happy to be.
Great guest. Not just great.
He's amazing. So,
well,
thank you for taking, just being you. We just want to say thank you for being you. Thank you for shaking my hand and meeting me in Pasadena. That was really cool. I haven't washed it.
Fun.
It was. So.
And he really hasn't washed his hands. I can smell it from here.
That's true. It's true. All right. Enough with the pleasantries and all that. Let's get on with the show. So one of the things that we got asked the most once we announced that you were going to be a guest is, what is your actual first name and where the hell did Wother come from?
So my first name is Carter. I actually am not named Wother. Wother has been a handle for me for 15 years now. It's a character from a Redwall novel, which are novels that are like, they're talking animals fighting with swords. It's a juvenile fiction novel. Anyway, so it became a Dungeons & Dragons character, and then has been a Dungeons & Dragons character up until the point where I started playing Ingress, and then it wasn't chosen, so I was like, I'll be Wother. And then I've been Wother ever since. The G+ was actually around before Ingress, because I used it for keeping track of stuff.
Just stuff.
I can go on. Stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, as along with your name, I mean, you've got a really interesting symbol as your avatar. Can you share what it actually is and what it means?
Yeah. So my avatar is a glider. It's from the game of life, and it is a traditional hacker symbol. It's kind of an older symbol when it comes to that, but it's a symbol. It means it's in the game. It's one of the few things that will just continually perpetuate. So it will go around and around and around in the game and just kind of always be there because it never dies. There are specific rules to the game of life, and it was one of the original, like, well, it's just a very early computer game, I guess. But it's a glider, and it's a symbol for like ethical hacking and that kind of thing, and I believe in free information, so it's kind of a symbol of that. And it was, like I said, my avatar before Ingress, and then now it's just kind of followed me. I think if I changed it, no one would know who I was, at least in Hangouts.
That might not be a bad thing, though, because you probably would have less Hangouts, right?
No.
No.
I don't.
So you mentioned the game of life, and you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. Have you always been a gamer?
I have been a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons for 2 decades now, since I was 9 years old. I've been a gamer. I do a little bit of light computer gaming, but nothing too crazy. Just stuff on my PC. The only phone game that I play is Ingress. So that was the few phone games that I was really excited about when it kind of was announced. I was like, augmented reality, I'm down for that. That sounds like fun. It'll get me out of the house. And it did. It definitely did.
That's interesting. So
yeah,
you don't have any other games that you play on your phone?
On my phone?
Yeah.
Glipper, if that counts.
I'm a 28. Come on,
I mean, it's kind of a game.
Kind of, yeah. It's a game within a game. Helps you play the game. Yeah. Well, speaking of Ingress,
like if you look at my stats, the only reason that I use Glipper is for beta testing.
Beta
The
testing.
dev. Well, no, the dev wants me to help with that. Gotcha. Same thing with same thing with other programs.
So speaking of playing games, though, you can people can play Ingress in many different ways. I know you're kind of an Intel sort of guy, but how would you describe your primary mode of playing, I guess? How would you describe your gameplay?
Battle spreadsheets.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
So I do play a lot behind my computer as far as watching intel and being able to direct agents on the ground. It's my favorite aspect of the game thus far. There's a part of it, it's like a very large chess game, I guess. And except for with people that are actually people as opposed to like not. And for me it's always been fascinating that there are agents all around the world that are willing to drive hundreds of kilometers just to press link or hack or deploy a virus or blow up a portal or do whatever they're going to do. But it amazes me the amount of dedication that people put behind this thing. And I'm there to be able to help them do what they need to do, I guess, in the most efficient way possible. So yeah, I try to open my scanner as much as possible, but for playing for 2 years, I definitely am not as high as I could be. It took me almost 10 months to get to level 8.
Okay. So what level are you now?
I'm 12. I just got 12 in Baltimore, actually.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, spam, the next guy actually was attacking one of my portals earlier. That was still in Baltimore.
Nice.
It's kind of one of the things I love about the show is that there are these kind of interweaving connections, whether we realize it or not, and we actually have records of the paths that we've crossed at some point or another.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so as you slightly alluded to, but maybe just to clarify, you are a pretty well experienced Intel operator. Can you share something related to one of your ops that maybe you discovered or learned which a less experienced operator might not have found or realized?
So I guess my most recent thing that I could probably go into is when to call an op, because sometimes you have, like, for instance, we had, for one of the last ops that I did, we had agents that were like on the top of a mountain, and they had to descend by a certain time. Otherwise, they were going to be stuck there overnight and didn't have the gear to be able to do that. So as an operator, you have to be able to judge whether you're going to be able to have the clearing done by the time that in the time frame that you have allotted for that. So we have to keep in mind that all of our agents are more important than the operation itself, and that, you know, an agent's life is definitely more important than any operation ever will be. So I had to call it. I had to scrub it. And it was like I had my other operators that were there with me, and we were all kind of discussing it. And it sucks because it's like these agents have, once again, driven hundreds of kilometers and climbed a mountain and are there. And it's like, yeah, we've got to scrub this for safety. So that's one thing that it's just like, if you're not as experienced or if you haven't been doing this for a while, you won't call that, or you'll try to put somebody in a situation that, I don't know, is dangerous. And so that's one thing that definitely needs to be imparted, is that these are real people on the ground there, and you have to treat them as such. They're not just, you know, pixels.
Yeah,
they're not
it's a
just
fact.
names on a scanner. Yeah.
Yeah, and good to share. I mean, that's helpful for both sides.
Yeah.
So do things like that continually surprise you? What's the as an Intel operator, what's the biggest or craziest thing that somebody has done for one of your missions that just you're like, no way, I would never do that. But kudos to you. I really appreciate it.
Well, first, I wouldn't ever ask an agent to do something that I personally wouldn't do. And I've gone out and done stuff.
Oh, you've somehow muted yourself. I think that's a shot for everybody watching at home.
I did not mute it. I am being censored.
Is that PG?
No,
wasn't it?
first, I wouldn't ever ask any agent to do something that I personally wouldn't do. But there have been some agents that have done some crazy stuff where I'm like, dude, you don't have to do that. And they're like, no, I'm definitely going to do this. And I'm like, all right, like, be careful, and if you need any help, we're available, you know, for any sort of thing. Like one of the agents here in the West has climbed many mountains to claim portals on the top of mountains, and he loves it. He's an extremist anyway, and so he ends up going to these places, and Ingress has kind of been a way for him to be a part of the big game when it comes to stuff like that and harvest things that otherwise wouldn't be harvested. He's claimed portals that have never been claimed before, which is just, I don't know, I would love to do that. And that's one of the reasons that it's like, I don't know, like sun tunnels. I would never have seen sun tunnels if it weren't for the game. But I've driven out there dozens of times. I don't even know. If you can't read the sign in the background that says sun tunnels, yeah.
I'm sorry, do you mind sharing what that is?
Sun tunnels? It's an art installation in the West Desert of Utah. So you actually have to drive out through Wendover, and then you get on a dirt, the middle of nowhere, and I'm not remembering her name. I wanted to remember her name for this, but there's an artist she's the wife.
Oh, man. Is he going for you?
Equinox?
You paused.
Everything was going so good.
How did I pause?
I know. Okay, so she was the wife of whom?
She was the wife of the gentleman who did the Spiral Jetty in the Great Salt Lake. It's an art installation that's visible from, like, way high in the sky. And you can't really see anything if you're standing next to it. But she aligned these tunnels with, like, the equinoxes. So there's the summer equinox and the winter equinox. And the sun will, like, shine perfectly through these tunnels on those 2 days of the year. And then also, like, punched holes in these big concrete tunnels that are out there that align with specifically, like, they align with different constellations. It's really, really, really pretty out there, especially if you're there at night.
That's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, that's beyond cool. And, I mean, I've got to say, like, because we have, I mean, not to compare with, I think, some of the ancient ruins that some people visit, like in Peru or Mexico, where things are aligned with the sun at certain seasons. But as an art installation, I mean, that's a theory that I think many of us haven't really come across. And it'd be pretty funny if that's what a lot of, like, the pyramids were based on art installations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some evidence to maybe not support that, but it could be. Could be.
You know what? And that good art is to provoke thought and expand your mind. So
Ramses was just like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of
Get on
painting
Intel, Artifacts
stuff.
Your Life.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
we're just gonna make pyramids.
Calendars. I'm gonna make an artistic calendar.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe. All right. Well, you touched on something about you and your intel and being a safety net for the guys that are out in the field and all that. And I, as a person who relies on you folks, the intel community, to do the ops, I really appreciate it because, yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going on around us. You provide us a situational awareness, and I always admire you guys, the eyes in the skies. So thank you for that. Thank you, maybe not thank you for being on the resistance side of that, but I'm sure there's people that appreciate it. So.
Oh, we love the enlightened too. It gives us
Yeah, without it's a symbiotic relationship, right? You gotta have us, we gotta have you. So, but no, Intel operators are definitely vital components to ops, obviously, and you guys do an often uncredited job. So
we get credited plenty of times if things go wrong.
Very true, very true. Yeah. You get demonized. Yeah, absolutely. But if there could be a badge created for running ops, is there a way that everything's got a metric to it? How can you measure that? Would you even be able to? Do you think there should be a badge for what you guys do?
So the answer to that one's twofold. So first, I think that Niantic could do some really cool things with the Intel map where it's like we see these soft bands and we see these kind of things, and it's like if you integrated part of the glyph game into the Intel map, it's in some way, shape, or form, to be able to prove that you're a human and not like just a piece of software. Hi, Phil. Then that can add directly to the glyph points that people get already. So that'd be one cool way to be able to kind of integrate the Intel operator into specifically the rest of the game. And then the second thing, I don't remember. My mind just went completely blank. Phil, you fucked me over. Oh.
That's all right. If it comes to you, let us know. We're talking about metrics. Could they? Do you think there should be a badge, and how would they go about actually implementing it?
Oh, that's the other thing. Intel, personally, I don't do it for the badge. Like if I'm helping with an anomaly, if I'm helping with doing an operation, if I'm doing that kind of thing, I'm not there for the badge. I'm there to make sure that everyone's having a good time and that everyone is, there for the team. So personally, my own personal feelings on that is that I'm not there for the badge. If I want the badge, I'm going to go to the anomaly. I'm going to participate in some way, shape, or form on the ground. Because if you're earning a badge, you should be doing it with your scanner. And I mean, I agree that there's a disconnect there, but at the same time, it's like we're not trying to go for glory here. In fact, the best intel means that we aren't noticed.
Fair enough. So. All right, for those of you who are watching right now, remember that you can submit questions for our guests this evening. Remember, if you're watching us through YouTube, you've just got to click on the banner at the bottom of the video that says "Be part of the conversation," and from there, just click on the square grid menu icon in the upper right and select QA. All right, so Wother, you mentioned that you love staring at the map. Is it a fascination that you might have with cartography or playing with a global set of data that shows what's happening in the world, or how did you discover or how did you develop your interest with Intel the way you have?
So my first experience with doing Intel from like an operational standpoint was Jarvis Shard number 4. And I had an agent that was on the ground, Adam. Love you, Adam. He might be watching. He might not be. I don't know. But he was on the ground at the portal that the Shard was sitting on. And I was sitting there for 36 hours straight, and he was at the portal for that same amount of time. And I remember, because the jumps were every hour, we were like keeping each other awake and allowing each other to like take a 20-minute nap, and then he'd call me and wake me up, and then he would take a 20-minute nap, and I would call him and wake him up. But the map itself it's pattern recognition for me. It's not necessarily like the cartography or the I mean, I've learned a lot about like geography by all means, and it's really fun to like click on something and you're like, oh yeah, they're all asleep right now because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning there. But for me, it's more about seeing how the game's interacting with that map. So it's seeing the pattern recognition of seeing lanes clearing for large fields, for watching how a specific area goes back and forth with exactly who controls what area or how that's happening. But for me, it's more of, like I said, it's a pattern recognition and a very extremely complex game of chess. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, very much so.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It is pretty cool the things you can see just by looking at the intel map, I do have to say. You can infer a lot. So when you're not looking at the intel map and your scanner is off, what other hobbies or activities do you actually do?
So I mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a total geek when it comes to that. I've been a dungeon master for 2 decades now. I have characters that are old enough to vote. So that's fun. Wother, like, was one of those characters. Anyway, I do hiking, biking, climbing. Every week we go on a bike ride, which I should be going on right after this, actually. We'll be riding through, like, helter-skelter through downtown, which is always a blast. Phil Faber is my homie when it comes to that, so he introduced me to that. Aside from that, you've got, I don't know, it's kind of, I'm a total geek. I love building computers. Like, I've got, my roommates hate me because I have like 20-something computers in the house, and at one point, like, just built a supercomputer because I could. So it was fun. But I've always loved just hacking things together and kind of making sure that everything works like that. And it's just, it's an exploration for me. So kind of a hobby there. I don't know. Everything else is kind of boring. I play cards and do stuff like that. Lots of drinking. I do enjoy my alcohol. So there's that.
So I got to ask, what class of D&D character is Wother?
Wother is a bard.
You know, that makes sense. Yep.
I think he was a bard rogue, to be honest. But or a swashbuckler bard, one of the two, depending on whether you have swashbuckler available. But yeah, he was a bard. He sung songs and danced around and stabbed people in the eye and stuff like that.
All right. So, in addition to all of that, you've also helped create a hashtag, BCYTID, for viewers, and I'm going to admit myself included. What does that mean?
So, Bracelet Club Yo, Till I Die, is what that stands for. You have officially, that would be strike 2. You had Mo on Behind the Scanner before, and we were trolling him incessantly. So Bracelet Club started from a farm, and we went to this farm, and I was a fresh level 8 agent and was like, I need gear. And so I went to this park and brought whiskey and donuts, and we all got, and bracelets. And so there were these bracelets that we got that, they were just blue paracord bracelets. And I was really fresh to the game and just like kind of excited, and so I handed out these bracelets to everyone. And it was just the first part, there were like 8 or 12 of us, not too many people. Adam Hong, I don't know if he's watching, but he was one of the original guys. So after that, there was like this huge, I'm not going to go into details of the explosion of drama that happened in the community, but I was like, I didn't know anyone. So I was like, I'm just going to turtle. I'm going to take the agents that showed up to this farm, I'm going to throw them all into a hangout, and we're going to say that the only rule is don't be offended. And then we slowly added to that is also no child rape jokes, but we'll get to that. But Bracelet Club started as a kind of a way to include the outcasts, the misfits, the agents that don't really fit into the main community. BCY it's gotten huge. Like, it's now like 5 different hangouts. 2 of them are cross-faction. If you ask too many questions, we'll pull you in, it's Hotel California rules. So if you get pulled in, you can never leave. I expect at least some of BCY is watching this right now, and they are probably going to be submitting some interesting questions. Yeah, you can just ignore most of those. It's a little bit of a trolling group, but we usually try to troll for good. We only troll people who are kind of assholes. So I'm sorry, I have a horrible, horrible mouth. But at the same time, it's just like it's a place where those agents kind of can be and be themselves, and there's no judgment. There's no you're not saying we don't care if you're gay or straight or a boy or a girl or an agent. Well, no, we have to be an agent, and we give you crap until you're level 8. But at the same time, it's just like it's just a community that's grown immensely. I don't know. Perfection, Marius is actually he was the initial, he flipped, and he was originally BCY because we met at DICE, which was my very first anomaly, which was a blast. And he flipped, but we wanted to have Bracelet Club Con, so BCY Con. And so he actually flew all the way from Europe to come to Utah to be able to be here and drink with us. And we drink and we hang out and we don't care. Like, there are other ways I could describe it, but they're not really safe for YouTube.
Nice. We'll have to have that talk on Behind the Scanner After Dark immediately following this. So.
Immediately.
There's an After Dark version?
Oh yeah, you can't hang up when your segment's over with.
Very exclusive pay-per-view kind of show.
All right, so another acronym that people might recognize is BRRN, which stands for Burn, for which you were, not are, but were a moderator of. Were there any experiences that came out of moderating that? I mean, it's a pretty connected, community of people that taught you something that maybe helped you outside the game?
Yeah, actually. So Burn, the big regional resistance network, we're a highly connected group of controlling agents that just try to take over the world. No.
Y'all blame it on the Shapers.
No, but Burn is a whole bunch of trusted agents around the world that are united by a single network. And it's a way for us I've literally crashed on Burn members' couches when I'm traveling to a different city. Like, in Baltimore, I met Molly, and she was from Burn, because we met in Pasadena, and I was like, I might crash on your couch, and she's like, okay, and I was like, okay. And so it's like, we end up meeting all of these different people, and it's a way for us to be able to verify out-of-town agents that are in town, so I'll be poked as a Burn member and be like, hey, this person says they're from Utah. Do you know them? And I'll be like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And they'll be like, okay. So it works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. But at the same time, it's just moderating it. The one thing I took away from moderating it, spreadsheets. I learned how to manage spreadsheets like you have nobody's business. From scripts that are populating a map to verification to making sure that everything is up to date to seriously like adding things, subtracting, just really boring, benign stuff. But I actually use it in my real job, like in my real life day-to-day stuff. Like I actually have used the scripts that I've learned how to do that, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been a mod. So, yay! Augmented reality, augmenting my reality.
Nice.
All right. So, I mean, you've obviously been part of some really cool ops. Not necessarily for details, but when something is successful, how do you celebrate? Do you yell Shazam, or do you happy dance, or what do you do?
Sometimes there's swearing.
Okay.
The last, I guess the last time that I would have something that was like memorable was when we were moving Meerkat, which was an artifact, out of New Zealand, and I was talking to these people on the ground. I was on Zello. I was like, okay, yes, get to this portal and link. Just make it happen. And the agent got there and like made the link with like literally seconds to spare. And I was just like, I sat there and I watched it, and I watched it move on Intel, and I pushed the refresh, and I saw it happen, and I was just like, whoa! And I was yelling, I was hooting, I was hollering, and I don't know if there's anything specific. I do my happy dance. I sit there, I swear a lot and tell people they're awesome. But that's normal. I try to do that as much as possible. So, yeah, there's nothing like specific. I did do a robot voice on Bello that made people crack up. That was kind of funny. I was like, the measurement window is starting now. Like the nozzle from Venture Brothers, if you're familiar. I tried to emulate that. So.
I'm guessing there's some celebratory drinks as well that are shared and clinked.
Sometimes, if I'm in a room with people. Otherwise, I just crack.
It's okay to cheers yourself. I think that's a rule, right? You can do that.
No, you're not supposed to be able to cheers yourself. You know?
All right, let's. Are you ready to take some viewer questions? I think we're going to skip ahead because we got a bunch of them coming in, and I'm sure several of them are friends of yours that we should get on the air. So let's just dive head first into it. All right, the one that's got the most +1s right now is from Just D. They want to know: are you or are you not a Moppet?
I can't answer that question without compromising agency.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So moving along, Paul Timmons wants to know, what does OPSEC mean to you?
No inside joke at all whatsoever involved with that one.
Operational security is most simply defined as success. It is enabling agents to be able to put their time and effort into a phone game that they believe in, and not having somebody with loose lips or shady ties or ulterior motives, having them not be able to, I mean, people spend thousands of dollars on this free phone game. And operational security for me is enabling those people who are spending that money and putting their time and effort and miles on their car and burning brownie points with their significant others, being able to ensure that their efforts are accounted for and that we can respect that. Because having to be able to have something thrown because somebody was trying to get laid and showed a field plan away pisses me off like nothing else.
Yeah. There are actually people on the other side of the game that are doing things, and
I think we're just trying to do something.
Yeah, you can't just reduce somebody down to a name and just discount everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We have, well, I already know the answer to this. T. True wants to know, are you currently wearing pants? The answer to that is, of course, no. So.
Yes, we declared this a pantsless episode.
Yeah, before we started. So, our own Jorge Pedreo would like to ask you, how do you manage so many chats?
Oh, that one's fun. So I'm in many Hangouts, and it's a weird balance. You have to, I mean, being able to read back. I'm with Artifact Live currently. I'm missing people to what's happening and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But you have to kind of pick your battles. So you have to figure out where the information that you want to be able to disseminate is being discussed and exactly how it is. And the size of the Hangout matters, the number, the people that are in there, how much you trust them, whole 9 yards. That all kind of plays into it. A lot of skimming. I'm a moderator for the Non-Scrollers Anonymous because I'm famous for like jumping in like, what's going on here? And people are like, if you had read 15 minutes back, that question would have been answered. And I was, okay. In fact, it was a drinking game for a group that I was in because if I didn't read back, then you drink. So drink if you're very close.
All right, we've got time for two more. One of them, where did it go? Is by, I think, our own Frank Martinez. He wants to know if you'll go to prom with him.
Frank Martinez? I'll see you in Phoenix.
Yes. There you go, Frank.
We
Phoenix.
can dance if you want to in Phoenix. Love you.
All right,
Shock
and,
troopers are
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I said the shock troopers, Western Resistance shock troopers. They're awesome, and Frank is of them.
All right, Anthony Moore actually has a serious question for the group. He wants to know, what is the most frustrating experience you have had in game, and what has been the most rewarding?
Like
Mr. Moore, I appreciate that. You have caught me at a misnomer on that one. Most frustrating experience in game to date. I don't know. I've been frustrated by a bunch of different things. I was extremely frustrated when I learned that an operation had been compromised because an agent had given out information for the wrong reasons. My most rewarding is being able to push through and have that happen regardless, and be able to kind of show the other team that even if you do have this information, we can still power through it as a team. So, without getting too, I don't know, personal there.
All right, good to know. All right, well, it's time for our BTS tradition, when, for better or for worse, we give every guest at the end of their interview 60 seconds to express whatever they'd like. And you can give a shout out, show off a talent, call people out, whatever you want. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
So I gotta say BCYTID. That's my oldest hangout at this point. I fucking love you guys. Pardon my mouth. I think that's 2. If it's PG-13, I've got 2 more. I have loved absolutely every aspect of this game, especially the people that it has brought me in contact with. There are places I would never have gone. There are people that I would never have seen. There are experiences like Baltimore that just blew my mind. And it's been an extreme experience, and it's been something that I've loved, fell in love with. I do have to give a shout out to Mo, because you're my homie. Phil Faber is sitting in the room with me, so I might as well say something to Reverend Legend. Love you. G-Money was supposed to be here, but he's not. He's another one of my roommates and another agent of mine, or another agent that I play with. Ann Miles has been an inspiration for me, and Ruth Shepard has been the reason that where I am today. In fact, Anne, I think, was the one who proposed me for Behind the Scanner. And Ruth is one of the most inspirational agents that I've been able to be a part of, or be a part of my life, I guess. So if I had to give a shout out, those would be the ones that I give a shout out to.
So right on. Thanks so much, Wother. It's been great getting to know you. You've been kind of I think you might be the sole resistance agent participating in the show tonight. So glad you are on, representing your peeps. And yeah, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
You don't know how many comments we got of people happy to see the face behind the dots. That's something that was said a lot as well. So
yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. And feel free to stick around for BTS After Dark.
After Dark.
Little private thing.
After Dark, and I can swear. Then
this is where the secrets
Yes, you can. So. All right. Thanks again.
Okay. Well, this is normally the point in the show where Jose Antonio Reyes would catch us up on the storyline. However, we believe he has somehow entered the Portal Network and shattered into 25 shards. So we're diligently working on putting him back together, and so that hopefully he can join us next week.
And that means that it is time for everybody's favorite part of the show. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to get like a sequins dress and just do the whole Vanna White thing. There you go. Jorge's not here to play my music either. It's the code of the show. Don't know what they are? Don't know what you get? Maybe it's an AXA. Maybe it's a level 1 burster. It's code roulette. But these are multi-redeemable and shareable, so go ahead, type them into a chat, redeem them, love them, enjoy them, share them. It's yours.
Yeah, I'm not seeing them in my Hangouts yet, so.
Oh, they will. I see everybody's face. People watching at home don't see the little video box, but everybody else, we can all see it. And everybody's face when this comes on, they're all like this, down, typing. So, all right, we'll leave that up there for about 5 more seconds. And
3
it is gone. All right.
Okay, so before we go on to our next guest, we have our new segment on Behind the Scanner. Fev Games is back live for their Inside the Scanner segment, and they'll break down some of the app changes, edits to the game mechanics, and describe any of the new features. So this week we get to welcome Dustin Downs, one of the main influencers behind Fev Games, to educate us. All right. Take it away, Dustin.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. As you all know, there's been a new scanner come out this week for Android, and I believe it's out for iOS as well now. The handshake for Enable Entity Picker and Enable Boost Recharge V2 was currently set to 10.7.6.0, which lines up with the scanner version which was just released. So now those features are enabled. As many of you have seen, the entity picker, when you tap on a clustered area of objects, will bring up a multi-selection interface, which, as with any change in Ingress, gets both positive and negative feedback. Personally, I've found it to be less useful than I'd hoped. I find it to be a bit of a pain more often than I've found it to be a benefit, but time will tell. The Boost Recharge V2 change is, there goes my daughter. That's Twilight Star walking by right there. The Boost Recharge V2 functionally doesn't really change a lot. It doesn't change the maximum amount of XM that can be recharged. The only real difference you see is that you have to release the button when it gets to 100% before the charge will take, rather than it just automatically going after a moment. We've got artifacts are recently live, and we're already seeing cities which are building perimeters around themselves to prevent any of them arriving in their town. They might have had enough artifacts for now. And we've also got now supported, if your native language on your phone is German, French, Italian, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, simple, and traditional Chinese. And for the entity picker, the different types of objects that can show up in that interface are a mission, just about any item, or a waypoint, which I've heard people say is really handy when you're running missions and you get to a field trip waypoint. Apparently the entity picker can really make it a lot easier. And in accordance with the rules of this Hangout, I also am wearing no pants, and at the insistence of my team, I am wearing my Ingress First Saturday Disco Cowboy hat.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Thank you for adhering to the rules. We appreciate that.
Yes, rules are important.
And just real quick, this little lady is a higher level agent than she is old. This is Twilight Star. She's pushing for level 10. She's not even 8 yet. Just wanted to say hi.
Ah,
Nice.
hello, welcome to the show.
She's going to be 16 before me. All right, man. Well, as always,
that's about it.
We appreciate the look into knowing what's going on inside the scanner.
Hey, thanks for having me.
To have you on.
Great.
All right, until next week. Thank you, sir. All right, so moving on, we've got an agent who is going to be joining us from Baltimore, which has been in the news recently. Agents experiencing political and civil unrest is not something that is really uncommon to Ingress, although it may be uncommon to you because Ingress is played all around the world. We've had many people on who've shared their experiences of what it's like to enjoy Ingress while terrorists strike fear in the general population, as we heard from Christopher from Kenya. We've had militaries taking control of governments, as told by our friend in Egypt. It's just a fact that happens. The last few weeks here in the United States, we've had our own domestic unrest, just actually an hour away from where Daphne and I are, and that happened in Baltimore. A young man named Freddie Gray was allegedly, I should say, sustained an injury after being arrested while in police custody and died. There are investigations that are still pending as to the specific circumstances of his death, but emotions ran really, really high, and peaceful protests turned into riots. Looting of destruction of property occurred around Baltimore. The National Guard was activated. A state of emergency was declared. There was a curfew that was established. All of these things are very, very, very uncommon for the United States. So during the events, players from both sides, not just locally, were checking in with each other to make sure everybody was okay. Strong community ties, I think, of Ingress is really what binds us and continues to amaze me and I think everybody else. I think it's really important that we share these experiences from people all over the world, not just the U.S., to highlight the fact that we don't really live in sort of a homogenous society, a little bubble that we tend to believe we live in. Not everything is the same. And not to forget that there's people that are facing adversity, the people of Nepal, for example, right now. They have to wade through things just to enjoy the game and relax. So with that, we welcome our next agent, Spam, from the streets of Baltimore to the show to talk a little bit more about that and his experience. So I've been talking for way too long. Take it away, Daphne.
All right. And, we also want to get to know the player behind the scanner here and off of the streets. So before we get into all of that, though, I've got to ask, Spam, did your parents actually name you Spam? I've found references that name tied directly to you going back 3 decades. So if it's not from their influence, how on earth did you get that name?
So you're telling me that you've been stalking me?
A little bit.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, I did get the name 30 years ago last month. Got it in high school. Before spam was even a term for junk email. Got it from a girl by the name of Moose. And her name was Moose because she was the size of a defensive lineman. She had once thrown her mom 6 feet across the room in an argument. She was also a certified genius, fluent in 7 different languages, had taught grade school kids how to speak English in Japan. So she was intimidating in every possible way. So when my friends introduced me to her and she said, "I'm just going to call you Spam," who am I to argue?
That does not sound like
first.
And it's stuck. I like that. That's a good story. That's much better than what we usually hear.
Own it.
So speaking of spam, I'm probably in the minority. It's probably because I was way poor back in the day and sacrificing and trying to get by. But I love that salted canned meat that you're named after. Hopefully, maybe, I guess. But I can't stand the gray cousin scrapple. I can do without that. So
yeah.
I guess, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say...
Having grown up out west in Colorado, scrapple... What's that?
It is not poor people food. It's island food.
That's what I was going to say.
Made from Minnesota. Or
if you're going to eat spam, have somebody from Hawaii prepared for you because they really, really know how to make it awesome. I had a friend in high school who made me spam and eggs that was unlike anything I've ever had. Part of the trick, I think, is to fry it until it's almost burnt. Get all the fat out of it. But
I love the
crispiness
of it.
It's
so delicious.
The toaster oven, thinly sliced, and then maybe little bits of seaweed. No, it's some beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Now, personally, I don't really eat it that much because it feels cannibalistic for me to do that. But
okay, you're
I'm
the
not
only one
hate.
who can be excused.
Yeah, but I'm not going to hate on anybody for eating it. Especially if they think fondly of me while they're doing it.
All right, well, while we're on the topic of these salted meat products, I have to admit, I'm a little confused, though, because what is this about you being the Bacon Bishop of Baltimore? Officially?
Yeah. So there's been that whole bacon craze going around for a few years on the internet and in life. Like every bacon is the hot thing, and I guess I was early on with that. And bacon was a eye-opening thing for me too, because I grew up in a sausage family, not a bacon family. So it was like crossing to a new threshold for me. And there's a company that makes most of the bacon novelty items you hear about, Bacon A's and the bacon condoms and some of the April Fool's things like the bacon coffin and the bacon suit. Anyway, they found out firsthand about me and contacted me and said, "You are officially our Bacon Bishop of Baltimore. Spread the word." So I set up a website called Ministry of Bacon. I've appointed people as my sub priests or whatever of different areas. So I don't know. And actually, a friend of mine, actually, a person who was who's an enlightened agent here and was a friend of mine before the game, owns a bar in town, and I said to him one time a few years ago, "Why don't you start a bacon and beer happy hour?" And he said, "I'm going to do that." And now it's gotten so big that it's been featured on national cable specials, and the mayor of Baltimore once cut short her meeting with Mayor Bloomberg in New York and was late to her own child's birthday party just to be able to make it to Bacon Night. So, it's a contributing my world there too.
Plug. It sounds delicious. And
who doesn't love bacon?
Wait. So beer and bacon is cool and all, but I can't get past. You said bacon condoms? I'm not familiar.
The company that makes all this.
Talk during the Passless episode.
Yeah.
Well, I won't get graphic with it, but yeah. Well, the company that makes all this stuff, every April Fool's Day, they come up with a fake bacon item they're going to make. So one April Fool's Day, they said, introducing bacon lube, and they got so much reaction out of it that they realized they actually had to make it. So they spent a couple of years getting it just right, and then they put it out, and then it led into the bacon condoms, which are essentially condoms with bacon lube on them. So I haven't tried them myself. Maybe I would get too excited. I don't know.
Interesting.
So none of that was my doing.
I'm intrigued, but all right. I don't even. No, there's no way to transition from bacon-flavored lube and condoms to the next topic, so we're just going to do it cold. We sort of touched on it a bit in your intro. What is the current state of Baltimore, and how have the events over the past few weeks affected and limited your gameplay?
Things just got back to normal. The National Guard just finished leaving town. The state of emergency got lifted by the governor. The curfew was lifted a day early by the mayor this past weekend. So everything's back to normal for the moment. The charges against the police officers that were involved in the incident that started this, obviously, they've been charged, but it still has to go to trial. So depending on what happens when that happens, unrest could happen again. So the issue hasn't been forgotten, but life is thankfully relatively back to normal here in Baltimore, whatever normal is for the city.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore, it's known as Charm City, and even from my very first times visiting there pre-Ingress, my friends and I were just remarking about how everyone everywhere was just so nice and so helpful. I mean, you can't help but love it. So, as a social aspect of Ingress caught you off guard with regard to the support and outpouring of care directed that way?
Not really. Baltimore is a very old city that has known what it is for a long time, and is very, very, very prideful and very loyal to everything that is Baltimore. even more fanatic about their sports teams than anywhere else I've lived. They're very defensive about anyone picking on Baltimore. Every time somebody thinks that the Wire is what we're about, you'll get an immediate reaction that there's more to Baltimore than that. So on top of that, the fact that the game is so wonderful about bringing people together and making new friends and really opening you up to new things, just that on top of what Baltimore already is, just made this a fantastic experience playing.
Well, talking about the social aspect and what happened in Baltimore, I understand that some Ingress players who are small business owners have been personally affected. How are you and the Ingress community planning to try to heal and cope now that everything's subsided?
Yeah, in fact, it was that friend of mine who owns the bar. His bar is kind of the enlightened headquarters for the city players here in Baltimore, and obviously, when a curfew says that everyone legally has to be inside their house at 10, that's before the biggest hours a bar will have. So anybody who's owned a bar or a restaurant in this city has had a major impact. It's kind of like a hurricane went through town and stayed for a week. So there's been, and what a lot of people did was they just said, I'm going to become a day drinker. So people would show up the moment the bar opens and stay until they got kicked out at 9 something. People did this at restaurants and bars all over the city. So a lot of places were held up by their regulars, were uplifted, and didn't quite sustain the losses they could have. And because of that, a lot of places were able to do things like a lot of restaurants were feeding for free any first responders and National Guard that were out here because of the unrest. There were other places that were contributing to the children in the affected areas where the riots had happened. So a lot of good things did happen. Baltimore came to the rescue of a lot of the businesses and people who were affected. It's always great to see something like that.
Absolutely. That's really good to know. That's the kind of stuff that you don't necessarily hear about or read about in some media. But as far as effects with the curfew, I mean, your normal gameplay schedule was midnight to 5 a.m. So how did the curfew affect you and any other players that you may have been on the same schedule with?
Yeah, I am very much a night owl. So I'll play even outside those hours too. But it's those hours that I'm most famous for because people will look in calm at what's been happening overnight, and I'm 98% of what's going on. Apparently, DC Resistance wonders who the hell I am because there's this guy just doing a world's worth of work in the overnight. But and it's fun doing it in the overnight because nobody's going to mess with your stuff. It's like the rest of the game is on pause. But as far as how the situation last week affected things, it kind of forced me to take a break. I've been playing really hard for a long time, and I could have played at other hours, and I do play at other hours, but it gave me a good chance to take a break, kind of let go of the game and things that I've been worried about and watching and all that, and just check in with other people in my life that I hadn't been talking to enough lately, or things around the house that I hadn't been doing, or I spent time with my pet that almost didn't recognize me anymore because I've been playing so hard lately. So it was a positive thing in a way. And once it was over, I went back to playing as strong as I ever did.
Nice. No rebound effect for that then, I guess, huh? It just goes right back to full strength.
No.
All right.
Yep.
So for everybody, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope.
Okay. There's that awkward delay when we're doing it live, so we can never tell, what's going. Anyway.
Everything about geology is awkward.
Yeah. For everybody watching, remember you can submit questions for our guests. If you're watching via YouTube, you have to click on the banner at the bottom of your screen that says "Be part of the conversation." From there, just click the square grid menu icon, which I will show you in a second, and then just select Q&A. It's that easy. Down at the bottom, up at the top, and then Q&A. All right, let's get to the interview. So, Mr. Spam, do you go by Spam or just Spam?
Just Spam. So, somebody
Just
else,
Spam.
another enlightened agent, already took the name Spam, and they're level 5, and they've got a founder's badge, and they haven't played probably since the dawn of time. So
Okay. All right.
it's pretty common. It's pretty common that Spam is taken when I'm picking a username for things. So I end up with Spam almost all the time.
Gotcha. So Spam squared. All right. With you kind of mentioned HBO, and well, you didn't mention HBO, but you mentioned The Wire, which is an HBO show, and sort of the portrayal of your city. And we've also seen, the news media and some folks spouting things on one end and the other end, and it's just been sort of a mix of how the city has been portrayed. So I guess I'm kind of curious, from a person who lives there, how accurate have these portrayals been, and what is the actual ground truth? Obviously, it's not The Wire, and it's not Charm City Cakes, but
those are parts of the story that is Baltimore. I mean, The Wire was based on things that that have happened in parts of town. There are parts of Baltimore that that do need a lot of help socially, which is part of what last week's unrest was about and everything. But there are also so many other parts of Baltimore. I mean, the Inner Harbor in downtown has blossomed into a fantastic area with a million things to do. The longer you live in the city, the more you discover. It's one of those cities that if you visit for a day or two, you really won't even scratch the surface of everything there is here. And I mean, it's been the home of musicians from Frank Zappa to Billie Holiday. It's very, very rich in culture. Very, very. It couldn't be more different from its nearby neighbor, Washington D.C. They're two polar opposites.
That's true.
So yeah. When people remember The Wire when that's their image of Baltimore, it's very, very incomplete. Baltimore has, the better you know Baltimore, the less The Wire is what you remember about it.
It's amazing how, I don't know when it occurred, but it seems like today people are putting way too much stock in entertainment, and they view movies and TV shows all of a sudden as the truth, even though they're obviously a fictionalized, sensationalized version of the truth. But yeah, I know Baltimore. That's where you can get crack, right? Yeah. So.
But you can also get crabs here. They're the best crab cakes there.
Oh my God!
And,
yes. Absolutely.
I guess it only made things worse. A lot of the coverage of the civil unrest that happened here a week ago only added to the problem because I would tune into CNN and they would say Baltimore is on fire, and networks were making it sound like the entire city was in a riot situation and there were fires everywhere and that we were all in danger. Really, it was certain parts of town that were affected. I mean, some of the looting did spread into a lot of areas of town the first night, but the main part of town where a lot of this was centered and where a lot of this continued to happen were parts of town that have been problematic for a long time, where the poor have been under haven't gotten the attention they needed, where police relations have been in need of a lot of improvement. So Baltimore, the news was sensationalized just as much as The Wire is, and for a lot of us, for most of us during that week of unrest, the curfew was the only thing that really affected us. We would all make sure that nobody was in the parts of town where things were happening, and in fact, that probably affected Ingress players more than your average because this game takes you to places you wouldn't normally go. Including a lot of places in parts of town that most of us don't live. And in fact, that's West Baltimore is one of the favorite places for people in the city to throw big fields because since not many players live out there, there's often huge open spaces. So, so that being the case, throughout the week, and especially while curfew was on, we would make sure that everybody was not only home safe but like hadn't been caught in anything that was going on out in West Baltimore, and causing us to have to worry about anything. And thankfully, nobody got involved in anything. I myself saw some looting with my very own eyes the very first night when I was trying to get some dinner. But after that, we were all pretty safe. Everybody, for the most part, was very, very good about respecting the curfew. At 10 o'clock, the game pretty much stopped.
Right on. All right. Well, we were talking a little bit about media earlier, and you actually you have, or you may still work in the media field to some degree. I was going to make the face for radio kind of joke, but so not the case here. But tell us about your interesting career path.
Yeah, I do work in radio. For the longest time, from like 1998 through last year, I worked for a very well-known radio station in this area among people who like alternative rock called WHFS. It's a station that put on a giant music festival in Washington, D.C. every year for a long time. They finally put that last version of the station. The station kept, it flipped to Spanish in 2005, got reborn in Baltimore, rebooted a couple times. They finally put it to rest last year. So that's the station I'm known for being at for a long time. Right now, I'm with another rock station in Baltimore called 98 Rock, helping them out as well. So yeah, still in radio, base for radio.
No, man, I will never forget.
Although the station I'm with right now actually has me on TV at times. We own the NBC station in town as well, and I host a lot of the lottery drawings on TV. So now people are seeing what I look like as I narrate the bouncing balls next to me.
The next number is 42. 42.
Making your winning pick 3 numbers: 3, 7, and 5.
I will never forget when HFS switched over to Spanish music, because I obviously most people didn't know it. It sort of kind of happened in the middle of the night, and I'm driving to work, and it's like 99.1. I'm like, what the hell? Where are the sports junkies? What's going on, man?
Yeah, we got 50 minutes of notice on that. At 11:10 that morning, they brought us in the conference room and said, "Here's the new logo at noon. Thanks a lot." So we were just as much caught off guard as everybody else. The station had been on the air since 1968. It was one of the oldest alternative stations in the country. It was a trendsetter. So it was shocking that kind of thing could happen. It was one of the first stations that big to flip like that too. So Howard Stern had talked about it for a long time afterwards. It got a lot of attention, but our company realized that if you just wait it out, eventually people will deal with it.
Yeah, that's always kind of the lesson, People will just deal with it and get used to it. But yeah, that was still very weird, It was something I listened to every day on my drive to work, and then it was just not there. So anyway, all right, back to Ingress. The segues are great on the show, isn't it? You leveled up really quickly. You got to level 8 in I guess a hurry. So what would you say are your favorite components of the game? Are you able to experience the breadth that Ingress has to offer?
Well, the way I got to 8 really quickly was I had actually just become unemployed. I was between radio stations, and I was sitting in bed one night, and Google Play said, "You might like this game," and for some reason I'd never heard of it, so I downloaded it, and immediately it says, "Pick a color," and I'm like, I wasn't prepared for. I kind of arbitrarily picked green, and the moment I did my first action, my buddy who owns that bar we've mentioned a couple times already, Bad Decisions, my friend John, immediately saw my name, said, "Come to the bar right now. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of gear. I'm going to teach you how to play this thing." And then there was a very, very, very high-level resistance player in my neighborhood who would just wipe out my neighborhood once on his way to work and once on the way back, and I would just deploy and link everything in between. I had all the time in the world, and time is the biggest, most important resource in this game. If you've got time, you can do anything. So I made it to level 8 in 14 days, level 9 a week later, level 10 a month later. I'm already 15 now, and I've only been playing 10 months. So.
Oh,
Good God!
And now
Wait,
what level?
I think I'm only level.
What's that?
13 or 4. I can't say. Daphne, am I 13 or 14 these days? I don't even remember.
I don't even know. Noobs.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So despite the fact that I leveled so high by building, it's being a destroyer that I really appreciate. I love killing farms. I love clearing out blue where I feel like there shouldn't be blue. When flash farms spring up, I'm the guy that is most often called upon to go wipe it out. In fact, last night I was in your city, Washington, D.C., and took some joy in wiping out a huge portion of downtown just because Baltimore's so green right now that it's hard to find that much blue to blow up. So,
Yeah, and God bless you for
also been visiting York for the same reason. York was a resistance stronghold for a long, long time, and they've finally got some competition now, and it's fun to battle there.
All right. Well, another part of the game, whether you enjoy it or not, the Shartifacts are back. And while there are differing opinions of them, and Jorge, if you were here, we would be aligned. But what are your thoughts about them? And, I mean, if you suggest improvements or what would make it a more enjoyable game for people like him and me, or even for yourself?
I'm still thinking about what I think about them. I never really, the shards never really came into my attention until this last time when Washington, D.C. was the target for Enlightenment, and all we could think in Baltimore was, this whole city is built up as a green city. We sure as heck, I'm not going to let anything go straight through it. So our main concern was just making sure that nothing was headed our way. We had a team of people who were dedicated to shard defense to try to shift things going either way. Luckily, nothing came at us. Things just went straight across the Atlantic. The resistance found even easier ways than having to dart through Baltimore. So we'll see where the new shards end up coming from and going to. But yeah, I'm still pretty new with shards just because last time was the first time I really got very close to very many. And I don't envy Washington, D.C. and everything they had to go through, the sleepless nights of figuring out what was where and how it was going to get there, and what they could do to stop it.
Well, the thing about the shards, at least for DC, was we were on defense the entire time, so we didn't have to move anything. We just had to try to protect it. But because it was almost 2 months, at least a month, of nonstop action, you're not going to be able. Your defense is not going to be impregnable the entire time, and so
right.
For better or for worse, again, the shards they didn't originate in DC. They originated around the world and came to DC. So
right.
Sounds like DC. Period.
Yeah. Actually, very true.
So,
all right, my man, we've got a whole cake. We've got a whole cake of viewer questions. Would you like to have a slice or two?
Great.
All right. They come with frosting and whipped cream.
I will eat whatever you feed me.
All right. The first one is from Robert Grizel? I'm not sure. He wants to know, at Spam, when it comes to on-the-ground gameplay, who is your most respected adversary?
My most respected adversary.
Do you have an opponent?
Changes from time to time. It constantly changes. Once I've got one person figured out as far as how I want to handle them, something else becomes a new focus. So that's what's kind of fun about the game, is that things are changing. New people come in, people change locations and focuses. So it's not the same game all the time. Clearly, there are a couple of resistance players up from York by the name of Mathematician and King Constantine that are really well known, and
yes.
they are very good. They're very good at making things difficult and very good at summoning whatever assistance they need to accomplish whatever they want to. So, they're probably somebody I would consider as kind of rivals or a main focus of trying to pay attention to what they're up to. But yeah, I don't have any one like arch enemy that remains an arch enemy for all time. It depends on what's going on. I focus on whatever needs the focus the most.
Fair enough. It is a game that changes constantly, so yeah, I can see that. All right, Janessa Howard wants to know, when it comes to playing Ingress, have you ever had weird experiences when dealing with other people who do not play the game? And if so, what was that experience?
The weird experiences, it's pretty much when you have to explain. One thing about playing at night is that you get very spoiled about being able to stop anywhere that you need to do something, because there isn't traffic, and you're not really holding anything up, and there isn't really anybody to stop you, to get you out of the way. So once in a while, I get funny looks for where I'm at, or when there's no other traffic, strange driving sticks out a lot more easily. So I think just the fact that I'm the only one out there, as I'm pulling over at strange places, I'm pulling over every half block at something, or I'm wandering around in weird patterns, or I'm staring at this phone, but I'm clearly not talking to anybody. The fact that I'm doing it at night probably creeps people out a lot, but and then when I tell them, when they ask what I'm doing, and I say it's a phone game about pretend alien energy portals, it doesn't make them feel like I'm any more sane than they already thought I was.
Why is this guy going 50 miles an hour down the road with his flashers on? Come on, man. Yeah.
Still.
I have to blow up this thing right here.
Yeah.
What thing?
Wait.
Yeah, you have to be careful about saying things like that around the authorities as well. You get really spoiled about having nobody around you. You can say whatever you want, and then all of a sudden you find yourself near a cop talking about how you're going to blow up the airport or something. So.
Fun fact, there was actually multiple portals at the White House, and those got removed, and there was an incident with the Secret Service that made that famous. So, yes. It's on G+. We won't get into it. We're already running long. But, all right, Just D, who asked a question for our other guests, has a question for you. How far have you traveled for the game, or an anomaly? And actually a two-parter. What is the funniest thing you've experienced in Ingress?
I haven't done a lot of travel for the game yet. I've played as far away as Salt Lake City is actually the farthest away I've played. So there's another guest coincidence. Other than that, I really haven't driven any farther to play than down to D.C., up to York, Lancaster, a little bit in Philly. So long-distance play is something yet to come for me. Right now, I've just been acting regionally. So that's that.
All right. And the second part of the question was, what is the funniest thing you've experienced in the game?
Oh, the funniest thing. I know a lot of people around town, and whenever I run into a friend who I didn't know was playing the game, they always end up being resistance. So I always have. So it always becomes this: how could you be my? Now I have to be your enemy? How could you do this to me? So it's usually stuff like that.
It just makes for a good rivalry.
Plus people having no idea what somebody by the name of Spam is going to look like. So if they know I'm around, they are expecting the weirdest, most bizarre thing that's on the street or something.
Very true.
Shoulder and him.
I remember seeing your name one time for the first time on comms, and I immediately started asking people, "Is this for real? Is this guy really legit? Is it a bot? What's going on?" I had no idea. I think it was actually Steve Hernickel from Scuba Nickel. It's like, "Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
that guy's legit." So, all right, last question. Leah wants to know, what are your greatest Ingress achievements, and what got you nominated for? Well, the second part of the question is what got you nominated for BTS. Folks, we have really no idea. It's an anonymous system. You can go to bit.ly.bts_guest and just nominate somebody, put their name in, and if you want to give a reason why, you can, but we just sort of reach out to folks. So the first part of the question that she wants you to answer is, what are your greatest Ingress achievements?
I guess the fact that I leveled up so fast, faster than I ever figured I would. Making it to 15 as fast as I have blows me away, and I keep looking at agent stats and seeing that I'm going to be 16 by the end of the summer at the rate that I'm going. I play at a pace of nearly 1 million AP a week, so so just the fact that I've gotten, it seems like yesterday I was still a clueless tadpole, and now people are looking at me as a senior veteran, or one of the leaders of the community or something, and I'm like, are you serious? Really? But I guess that's what happens when you've got a lot of time and you catch on to something this fast. So.
To be fair, though, you are the Bacon Bishop, so you do have some sort of clout.
That has a lot of clout.
Yeah.
I think in all circles.
Yeah.
I think Joe Philly might actually be quite envious of that. Oh man!
Yep, and as you're seeing here, I am
out right there.
I have an entire wardrobe of baconware. So every time there's a bacon night at Bad Decisions, or any other instance where the joy of bacon is called for, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Have yet to get the tattoo though.
All right, let's see how ready you really are. Because now it is your turn to talk for 60 seconds about anything you want, or you can show off more of your bacon wear. Whenever you're ready, please feel free to begin.
God, haven't I talked enough? What more do you want from? No, okay. I just want to say, it's the same thing that a million other people have said. That this game's been amazing about introducing me to things I've never seen. I thought I knew Baltimore really well, and there was so much more that this game taught me. There's so many people that I consider great friends that I met through this game. It's including members of the Resistance. I'm known sometimes as that guy where if you're attacking my stuff or I'm attacking your stuff, I will all of a sudden invite you out for a beer right then and there. And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, let's drink right now. Let's hang out." So I'll do it, and the results are usually pretty good. In fact, there are a couple of players just a couple blocks from where I am right now, by the name of Hyderbeats and Quetchung. They've been really entertaining to be adversaries with a lot of people, and I'm also overjoyed to be sitting here. I'm talking to you right now from the offices of a century-old sausage business called Ostrowski's. It's extremely hot in here and smells very, very heavily of meat. So I am nearly passing out from the joy of it. There are ingredients around me like this jar of dried pork, this squid sauce, red onion, some weird kind of curry that looks shady, and all I can smell is meat. There's a smoker back there that can smoke 5 pigs or 3 cows at once, and there's a meat grinder powered by a Ford F-150 engine. How I got into something, I have no idea. But anyway, and then finally, we've got a member of our team by the name of Minmus, and he wanted to tell the DC Enlightenment, the DMV crew, how much he loves them and how excited he is to be down there for the anomaly later this month.
We are excited to have him.
May 30th. It'll be a good time.
Yes, all are welcome.
I might even wear the monkey pajamas. Maybe.
Ooh, that would definitely burn me.
Maybe.
All right, my man. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying up later than expected tonight. Really, really appreciate it. And now that the curfew's over, I guess you can go drinking, right?
And
yeah, we've gotten really good at becoming day drinkers. So now we can be day drinkers and night drinkers.
There you go.
And I will be ingressing. Yeah, I'll be ingressing not in a straight line anymore. But it's it's been wonderful to see everybody come together from both sides for each other and for their own teams as this whole thing progressed. And we're looking forward to. We're still looking at the idea of having a cross-faction get-together, some cross-faction field art where the unrest happens. A lot of great things have come out of this, and hopefully it will continue like this, and the trial for the officers won't be around too.
Yeah. We can only hope.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you guys so much for watching, staying up late, and thank you for sharing your stories here. And like the question that was asked earlier about how you get on the show, bit.ly/BTS_guest. And we'd love to hear from more people and get to know more of you.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it.
Yeah. See you next week. Night. I don't know if I wanted to know all that goes into this sausage. I wasn't aware of all those ingredients.
I think was he eating the dried pork?
I was getting a really good whiff of them.
Nice. Oh, Dustin wanted to give a shout out. Yeah, you can talk. Go ahead. Who are we supposed to give a shout out to?
I can talk again. I forgot to say a shout out to my llamas. Llama squad for the win. Also, the red faction is real.
VIPA. Oh, we're supposed to give a shout out to VIPA, Vancouver Island Ingress Players Association, I think. VIPA. There we go.
VIPA?
VIPA.
VIPA. Whatever